Good evening and welcome to Real Talk, where every Sunday night we offer insight, education, and resources to in-home caregivers and those affected in their world. These are the children, the parents, the extended family, and everyone who loves them. And our goal is to offer real-life topics and learning through discussing real issues and offering real solutions. And tonight, I'm very excited to welcome our guest, Nneka Hall. Welcome, Nneka. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I love it. I'm excited that we get to have you here. I've had the privilege of hearing Nneka speak before, so I know you guys are in for a treat. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to jump into our topic for tonight. So Nneka is the mother of 4, 2 sunshines, ages 21 and 16, an angel baby who would be 11, and a rainbow who is 7. Most of us in the birth world understand those terms. In 2014, she founded Quietly United in Loss Together, or QUILT, a campaign which is a pregnancy and infant loss awareness designed to raise awareness of all types around loss from conception through a child's first 2 years of life, to teach health fertility, through womb health education, provide support to families who suffer these losses, and provide support for memory programs so they don't close due to inability to afford supplies. And tonight, we're going to dig into one aspect of that. It sounds just from that like we could spend hours talking, but of course, we never have all that time. So tonight, we are going to discuss specifically from NICU to college, raising a child with special needs to thrive. And we were having a little chat about some of our life similarities prior to this, but tonight we're going to really focus on this particular experience for Nneka and her family. Before we jump into that, help our audience get to know you a little bit better. Share something fun about you that they might not know.
Something fun. Okay. That's a tough one. I think the most I'll say a fun fact. The fun fact is I've been in the room with 3 of our presidents two at one time, and then all total I've been in the room with 3 presidents.
Wow. Are you able to share with us why you were in the room with them?
Yes. In 2016, I was invited to the very first U.S. of Women Summit, which was hosted by former First Lady Michelle Obama and Oprah Winfrey. And at that time, President Obama was in the room, and then Vice President Biden was in the room, along with a host of other dignitaries. And then February 2022, I was invited as my Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley's guest to the State of the Union, which was the most boring experience in life, but still, I was there and I met so many wonderful people through that experience.
Yeah, sounds wonderful. I've been in that city during the State of the Union, but I was working, so I was taking care of babies, not attending. That's not only is it cool, but that's an amazing honor, and I think it's an amazing testament to the work that you have done and your commitment to doing that with excellence. So I love that. Tonight, we're going to dig into a pretty personal experience. And I'm excited for you to share with our audience, because I think it's so impactful just for you and for me personally, but I think also because there's such a bigger message here. And so I'm really excited about that. So let's dig in. Let's talk about why this topic is important to you. You have a child who this is about, who had a really challenging medical diagnosis. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of how that has impacted or affected your life.
Well, when I was pregnant with my second child, it was a routine pregnancy. I call my oldest Frick and my second child Frack, simply because Jelani was born on his due date and Simone was born the day before her due date. And when she was born, I noticed that there was a little something. She was born at 39 weeks and 6 days. And there was something off about her breathing, but I was told, oh, some babies come here and they need a little help to breathe. And I'd never, I'd been around babies my entire life and had never really seen that before, had never really heard that before. That's way before I became a doula, or a maternal health advocate. So I said, okay. And before discharge, I called my pediatrician to get in to see her the next day, just so that she could check her out. If she said it was normal, then I was all for it. She'd been my pediatrician for 5 years. She'd done a great job. Therefore, okay. So when we saw her, she listened to Simone's heart and heard a murmur and said, well, now mind you, at this point, this baby is 4 days old. And she said, well, I'm hearing a murmur. Call and make an appointment with Peds Cardiology next door. And I'm like, why do I have to call? They're right next door. I'll go over and make the appointment. They gave us the date of September 16th, but she asked to see us again on the following Monday. So a few days later. And at that time, that Monday when we saw her, my child was no longer latching. She was sleeping most of the time and she had lost a lot of weight because she would not eat. So she said, well, when's that appointment? I told her, and she said, I'll be right back. She went out, made a phone call next door, came back, and she said to us, well, I want you to come back here tomorrow morning and we're going to go next door before office hours. And the next day, my then husband and I took our little one, who was a week and a day old at this point, and we found out, we met the most beautiful cardiologist in the world. She was like the Sofia Vergara of pediatric cardiology. And I was jealous because I was a week postpartum, a week and a day. And she, sent us next door for scans. And I don't think I was prepared for what I was about to find out. The tech did the scans. She looked at us, said, I'll be right back. Went and got cardiologist, head of department. They took a look. I'll be right back. He came back with it was a teaching hospital, everyone on the floor. And I said, someone has just stop. Someone has to tell us something because A, the room was overfilled, and B, something was up and they weren't sharing it with us. So the head of department, this old guy, and this gorgeous cardiologist, who's still a wonderful person today and in our lives, said to us, took us next door and explained. Now he's explaining and he looks like he's found some new money and we don't understand a word he's saying. And then she takes out a piece of paper and simply says, points to the wall, this is what a normal baby's heart looks like. And then she draws a picture and says, this is what your child's heart looks like. Your child has a hemitruncus, pulmonary hypertension, and a prolapsed valve. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean and how do we fix it? Well, we're going to give her some medication. What it means is she's inhaling oxygen and exhaling blood. So she was drowning in her own blood. And the goal was to admit her long enough to get the fluid off and come back in 6 months because she was a week and a day old at this point. But the next day she took a turn for the worse. And the following week, when she was 2 weeks and a day old, she had open heart surgery. And that really started this long journey. I want to preface everything by saying at her 13-year checkup, when she saw her cardiologist, we were told that her heart's 100% healthy. It's healthier than the healthiest heart that had come here. And if she continues, when we go next year for her 18-year checkup, if everything still looks the same, she'll be discharged from cardiology for life, unless she feels that she needs to see someone later in life. That process and the process of being her mom for the past, soon to be 17 years, she'll be 17 next Monday, has been an amazing process in that I've been able to see things that I never thought I was going to see. I was told that these babies die, that if they live, they're small in stature, never to have any expectations of her, that she would have blue spells, that she would never be considered for a college because she'd never be able to do the work. And to prepare possibly for her to live with me my entire life until I die and transfer her over to someone else's care. But my reality, because of the way that I chose to raise her, has been different. And I'd love to share bits and pieces of that with you, since she's going to be a senior in September. Well, she is technically a senior because the class is gone. The former class, senior class is gone. I thought it was time to share, especially this wonderful miracle baby who is thriving, not surviving, when I was told that this would never be. She's being scouted by colleges. She has a 4.3 GPA at one of the most competitive school systems in Massachusetts. And I want all of our children to have the same opportunity.
Yeah, no, I'm already just like, oh my word. And as a parent who had a child who had some challenges at birth, to some degree, I can understand. But what we were facing is nothing like this. And I know how I felt. So what that raises to me is, if you're a parent in that situation and you're looking at this kind of diagnosis, if you're being told this child may not live, if they do, they're never going to have what we would consider a normal quality of life, a normal standard of. How did you move forward? How did you keep going? How did you feel like there's hope to make this better?
First things first, breast is best. In these instances, even if you cannot produce milk, that's what milk banks are for. That's what siblings are for. That's what friends who are, lactating for. When your child is facing a very grim diagnosis or prognosis after the fact, you want to give them what they need to be fortified. And for me, what that looked like was she would not go back to breast. So I pumped for 15 months and added a scoop of formula because she needed added calories into that. And this child never gets sick. She had COVID. She brought home COVID to all of us last December, and she was sick for like a day and a half, as were my other two children. I was down. I wasn't breastfed. I was down for an entire month. So definitely, when and where possible, breast milk helps to fortify these children, not just for the interim, but more so later in life. That was the initial. I stayed home with her because back then, this was in 2005, there were no organizations like Newborn Care Solutions. There were no organizations, no daycares with nurses on staff or what have you. So my then husband and I decided that it was best for me to take off a year. I was working in the Boston public school system at that time and had at least 6 months of sick time accrued, short-term and long-term disability. So it only made sense for me to stay home with her. But what I did not consider was the other factor. When things go right, and I'm sure you've seen this, you have all the support in the world. Everyone comes to visit, everyone brings food. But when you're in a situation where the child is not well and may not survive, you're alone. That entire year, I had my grandmother and my aunt. My grandmother came pretty much every day to take my son to school. So I would also say a good support system, regardless of the outcome, is necessary to thrive, not just for the baby, but more so for the birthing person, because regardless of the outcome, they're postpartum and they need that support. I would also say, and this is just right after the baby is born and diagnosed and possibly treated, going forward through that, when you decide what's going to be, you have to make that conscious decision not to treat them any differently than you would a child who was born perfectly healthy. Because when you limit them, other people limit them. I noticed that when she was in, I was so worried that she started school at 3. And here we have the K0, K1 inclusion classrooms. And in K0, I remember asking the teacher, is she okay? And he said, she's fine. She knows her ABC. She knows how to count. What more do you want for a 3-year-old? 4 years old, I asked him again because she had him both years. And then we got to K2, and that's when the problems came up. The teacher, I noticed she was coming home with reams of paper from drawing. And one day I decided to ask her where was her actual schoolwork, because I'd done this before. I had an older child who was 5 years older. And she said, well, this is my schoolwork. And I said, well, where are your friends when you're doing this? Oh, they're on the rug learning. The teacher, I immediately scheduled a meeting with the teacher. At that point, my aunt was the assistant director of SPED for the school district, included her in the meeting. And the teacher said, well, you know, it's not like she's going to learn anything. So they were giving her reams of paper to draw on while they were teaching the rest of the class. She'd sit on a table while the rest of the kids were on the rug in front of the teacher. And immediately I saw red and my aunt grabbed me. My aunt knew what to do. And she suggested signing paperwork to start the IEP process. And that was the best thing that I ever did. But she also, when I left there, gave me the phone number to the district contact to the Massachusetts Department of Public Education, who set up a hearing. And at the hearing, he knew my aunt very well because they had worked closely placing children and mediating these types of things throughout the years. And he said my aunt was getting ready to retire. And he said to her, well, she needs an L4 placement, for a learning disabled child. And my aunt said, well, I have one seat, but I was saving that for a special situation. And the guy looked at her and said, this is that special situation. And to me, that was divine intervention, because she went to a school. Yes, she had to spend a lot of time on a bus, but she went to the school, and that's where she got her foundation. She had OT, PT, speech, reading, one-to-one teaching, a socialization class, every bell and whistle. But the class size was extremely small. And that's when our life changed. That's when her life changed. And she got the foundation that all of our children deserve.
That's amazing that there was not just somebody who would help, but the more amazing part to me is what you did. Because so many parents don't think to immediately step in. Oh, the school knows better, they're experts. And you know what? There's a lot of great people in the school systems, but there's no better expert in your child than you. Right. And I tell parents that all the time. I could be a baby expert, but I'm not your baby's expert. You are. And so I love that you did that. And there were so many people that basically were saying, you shouldn't have any hope. And a teacher who bought into that concept. Yes. So how is it? And maybe more importantly, what would you tell parents who might be in that same situation? How do you hold on to hope? How do you just say, no, I won't accept this, and I'm going to fight for my kid? You want the best
for your children. None of us have a child and say, we don't want you to do anything. We want you to be here with us forever. That was never my hope. I've always told my kids, my job, the true testimony or whatever of how I have raised you will be you out in the world being an adult. And when I was told that this child would never do that, even at the school setting, they told me, you know, 5th grade, there are going to be things coming up and you're not going to get invited to advanced work. You're not going to ever have the opportunity to pass the school exam and all of this stuff. So just let her stay here and this is a K-12, she can stay here and she'll be fine. And the day that the principal called me in to tell me these things, by the time I got home, the mail came and my daughter was accepted to the advanced work program at a different school. And I was terrified because that school had no bells and whistles. It was an inner city school, unlike the other school, which was way out in the middle of nowhere. And I had to let her I had to trust faith and trust her. And this moving forward fast, 6th grade, very first report card night, I show up ready to do battle because they don't have the services she's accustomed to. She had not been getting any sped services whatsoever after having sped services from the 1st through the 5th grade. And I'm ready to do battle. And Simone comes up to me with her report card and it's all A's. And I'm looking and I'm like, what do I do? How do I handle this? I'm here to fight for you. And she's like, the fight is over. I mean, honestly, I have not had to do any hands-on fighting since the 5th grade. She took it over, won't let me speak to teachers. I show up for a meeting for her 504 plan once a year, you know, and that's the extent of my momming. Otherwise, she speaks to her own teachers now. So how do you get your child to that point? You show them that you're advocating for them until they can advocate for themselves. You find that school, you do your own research to see what's best for them. I mean, she was an L4, which was very bad. But when she had all of those supports, it taught her how to learn. It taught her how to study. She was invited after the 6th grade, and it's not just that we want to hop from school to school, but she was invited in the 6th grade after passing the school exam, which used to be huge here in Massachusetts. We have Boston Latin School and Boston Latin Academy, which Boston Latin Academy has trained the wives of presidents and a lot of our key as girls Latin in the past. And Boston Latin School used to be the go-to for our presidents and elite founders or what have you. That's where Phyllis Wheatley was taken to be, and never mind, I'm getting off attack. Let me take 3 minutes. Okay, that can, yeah.
That's all right.
So she was accepted to Boston Latin Academy and I had to let her go. And she's been on the honor roll since the 6th grade. Now she's 12th grade, 4.3 GPA, and is being scouted by, she's a Questbridge scholar, being scouted by every Ivy League, and pretty much every school in the country has emailed me asking me to fill out their applications on her behalf. But we'll know by December 1st which school she's given a full ride to. Please let it be Yale. Yale is her #1 and Columbia is her #2. But I would say to any parent, don't treat them any different. No matter what the disability is, my daughter has memory problems. You should see us trying to remember stuff on a regular basis. Teach them how to write it down. Get them every type, and I know it can be pricey, Lord knows, I have spent a mint on technology over the years for her. Some of it will be provided by the school, but it's not the top notch. There are grants that you can look at to, if you just can't, there are foundations which will help you. And if you just don't have the funds, you can go direct to the company and they'll help you. They might give you the technology. It's that technology that they need so that they can keep up and can learn, because a lot of our special needs children are great with technology, you know, and that will make them thrive. With Simone, she has issues. She has, in order to read a book, she has to have the book in front of it to see the words, in front of her to see the words, but she also has to hear it being read to her. So, and it's amazing. She writes the most beautiful pictures, papers, and puts together presentations that you would not believe. But people do not understand. While your child may go home from school and take a couple of hours to do their work, it takes my child 8 to 10 hours after school to get their schoolwork done, because they have a process. It's that process that leads to success.
Now, I love that. It is, to me, it is not just a testament to you and what you have done in order to advocate for your child and provide as many opportunities, but it's also a testament to who that child is,
Yes.
Which is amazing. So we're almost out of time. We're going to have to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, but tell us, related to that, what's the most rewarding part of being that child, Simone, being her mom?
Oh my goodness, I'm about to cry. Her successes. Every time she succeeds, I see that baby that they told me would never succeed. When she gets these invitations, when she gets awards, when she, you know, comes up with an idea and I support her. And these report cards. These aren't like BS classes. This is calculus. And one year she took all honors classes, and seeing that she could still get all A's. That was her. You know, we take them as far as we can, and then we cut the strings and we let them fly. She started soaring years ago, and I cannot wait to see who she will be as an adult.
That is beautiful. Normally I ask everybody, oh, let's leave our audience with one last tip, but you know what? I think that's probably the best thing to leave them with. So I would love to thank you so much for joining us on Real Talk, Nneka. It's been an honor to get to talk with you again. I always enjoy chatting with you. And I hope that our audience feels as blessed as I do by this. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you to our audience for joining us tonight on Real Talk as well. If you have any questions around this topic or anything about raising a child with special needs to thrive, put them in the feed and tag Nneka or tag us at Newborn Care Solutions. We'll make sure that you get answers. And of course, as always, you can access this along with all of our other educational content by going to newborncaresolutions.com and clicking on the education tab. And you can find all of our Real Talks on our YouTube channel. Just put Newborn Care Solutions into the search engine. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great night.